Welcome to No Hive, online learning community from Kerala. Myself Mitra, AI-based personal assistant of Dr. Prem Shankar. I would like to welcome everyone to web scraping and data analytics with Python course. In last video we have discussed about HTML basics and web browsers powerful developer tools, which will make scraping information from the web much easier. Today we will going to discuss about parsing HTML with the BeautifulSoup module. BeautifulSoup is a module for extracting information from an HTML page. In this video tutorial we are going to cover quick overview of BeautifulSoup module. BeautifulSoup is a module for extracting information from an HTML page, and is much better for this purpose than regular expressions. The BeautifulSoup module's name is bs4, for BeautifulSoup, version 4. To install it, you will need to run pip install from the command line, while BeautifulSoup 4 is the name used for installation. To import BeautifulSoup you run import bs4. For this video, the BeautifulSoup examples will pass. That is, analyze and identify the parts of an HTML file on the hard drive. Open a new file in text editor. Copy-paste the given text and save it as example HTML. Alternatively, you can download it from your Google Classroom. As you can see, even a simple HTML file involves many different tags and attributes, and matters quickly get confusing with complex websites. Thankfully, BeautifulSoup makes working with HTML much easier. Creating a BeautifulSoup object from HTML, the bs4, BeautifulSoup function needs to be called with a string containing the HTML it will pass. The bs4, BeautifulSoup function returns a BeautifulSoup object. Copy-paste the given code into your Python editor while your computer is connected to the internet. This code uses requests.get function to download the main page from the No Hive website and then passes the text attribute of the response to bs4, BeautifulSoup function. The BeautifulSoup object that it returns is stored in a variable named soup. You can load an HTML file to bs4, BeautifulSoup, along with a second argument that tells BeautifulSoup which parser to use to analyze the HTML. The HTML parser used here comes with Python. However, you can use the faster LXML parser if you install the third-party LXML module using pip install command. Forgetting to include this second argument will result in a user warning. No parser was explicitly specified warning. Once you have a BeautifulSoup object, you can use its methods to locate specific parts of an HTML document. You can also load an HTML file from your hard drive by parsing a file object to bs4, BeautifulSoup, along with a second argument that tells BeautifulSoup which parser to use to analyze the HTML. The HTML parser used here comes with Python. Here we use example HTML file created in previous slide. But you have to make sure that the example HTML file is in the working directory. Finding an element with the select Method. You can retrieve a web page element from a BeautifulSoup object by calling the select method and parsing a string of a CSS selector for the element you are looking for. Selectors are like regular expressions. They specify a pattern to look for. In this case, in HTML pages instead of general text strings. A full discussion of CSS selector syntax is beyond the scope of this tutorial video series. But here's a short introduction to selectors. Given table shows examples of the most common CSS selector patterns. The various selector patterns can be combined to make sophisticated matches. For example, soup, select, paragraph author, will match any element that has an ID attribute of author, as long as it is also inside a paragraph element. Instead of writing the selector yourself, you can also right-click on the element in your browser and select Inspect Element. When the browser's developer console opens, right-click on the element's HTML and select Copy CSS Selector to copy the selector string and paste it into your Python program. The select method will return a list of tag objects, which is how BeautifulSoup represents an HTML element. The list will contain one tag object for every match in the BeautifulSoup object's HTML. Tag values can be passed to the str function to show the HTML tags they represent. Tag values also have an attrs attribute that shows all the HTML attributes of the tag as a dictionary. Using the example HTML file from earlier slide, enter the given code into the Python program. This code will pull the element with id equals author out of our example HTML. We use select author to return a list of all the elements with ID equals author. We store this list of tag objects in the variable elements, and len elements tells us there is one tag object in the list. There was one match. Calling getText on the element returns the element's text, or inner HTML. The text of an element is the content between the opening and closing tags. In this case, frame parsing the element to str function returns a string with the starting and closing tags and the element's text. Finally, attrs gives us a dictionary with the element's attribute ID and the value of the ID attribute author. You can also pull all the paragraph elements from the BeautifulSoup object. Enter given code into the Python program. This time, select function gives us a list of 3 matches, which we store in p-elements variable. Using str function on p-elements 0, p-elements 1, and p-elements 2. Shows you each element as a string, and using getText function on each element shows you its text. Getting data from an element's attributes. The get method for tag objects makes it simple to access attribute values from an element. The method is passed a string of an attribute name and returns that attribute's value. Using example HTML, enter the following into code to Python notebook. In this code we use select function to find any span elements and then store the first matched element in span element variable. Parsing the attribute name ID to get function returns the attribute's value author. We will continue our lessons in next video. Thank you. Please give your suggestions and feedbacks in comments.